Good evening and welcome to another episode of Brodie's Bedtime with me, Brodie's dad, and of course my special friend here, Toronto. Say hello, Toronto.
Hello, Brodie, how are you? Now, before we start, just a very quick disclaimer. Daddy's been sober for a few days, so he's a little bit...
Oi. Make my son think I've got a problem. I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. There's absolutely no problem at all. Well, you were asking for it. I'm just... private business. All right, we're okay. Everything's fine. Please go and tell him everything's fine.
Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. Everything's absolutely okay.
Okay, thank you for that. That'll do. You're going to come and sit on my knee while we talk to Brodie. Okay, good luck. Daddy's been out and about today, Brodie. He got a brand new mobile phone, which looks exactly the same as his... Oh, look, there's a picture of you on it. Looks exactly the same as his old mobile phone, but it's just got more memory. But that was nice, and he traded in some of his old ones, and one of them he took to the cash exchange, which is a wonderful place where you can trade stuff in and buy games, which Daddy did. He bought this Worms 2 and Worms Armageddon, which is a computer game very popular. 50p it cost, which is very popular when your daddy was much younger, long time ago. It was only 50p, so he bought it. He's not going to lie to you. He's probably never ever going to play it. He's very good at this, Daddy. He buys things that he's never ever going to use. For example, we have this No Country for Old Men, which Daddy bought a few months ago, still in its cellophane. We also have this. It's a film called Fight Club, also still in its cellophane, which I think Daddy bought all the way back in 2011. I think he bought it nearly 8 years ago now. Other things he does. While he's going through that, he went home a few years ago. I say home, back up to where your granny and grandpa live in Scotland, and brought this with him, which he hasn't watched. Now, this is what we call VHS. It's a video cassette. It looks a bit like that. I suspect by the time you're old enough to appreciate these things, everything will just be magically beamed to you by the internet. But this is one of the most awful films ever made. It's called Freddy, as FR07, and it ruined the careers of Ben Kingsley, Jenny Agutter, Brian Blessed, and oh my goodness me, I didn't even know Jonathan Pryce was in it. Prunella Scales. Goodness, Nigel Hawthorne was in it. Oh Christ, Grace Jones, Boy George. Oh, it's a lot worse than I thought. Maybe one day we'll show it to you. It's just awful. It's just awful. Your cool Uncle Brian got that for his birthday before we even had a video player. And then we got a video player, and the true horror of it was unleashed. Your daddy also treated himself to a new book, Germania by Simon Binder, to go with the book he's currently reading, called Danubia. And then while Daddy was going through his books, he also found this, which is the Brodie's Notes of Richard II, but it's Brodie's Notes. See, Brodie's Notes. I thought he'd maybe appreciate that. But he also found this, which is a book Daddy liked when he was little. It's called Harry McClary from Donaldson's Dairy, and he's going to read it to you now. Thought we'd have a bit of story time this week, since it's been a while since we had a Lodger's Hairy Legs, which was a bit silly, because your cool Uncle Byam invented that. But this is a real book invented by a real person. So, are you all comfortable? We shall begin. You can see it there. Yeah. Out of the gate and off for a walk went Harry McClary of Donaldson's Dairy, and Hercules Morse, as big as a horse. There he is. With Harry McClary from Donaldson's Dairy. Bottomly pots covered in spots, Hercules Morse as big as a horse, and Harry McClary from Donaldson's Dairy. Muffin McLay like a bundle of hay, Bottomly pots all covered in spots, Hercules Morse as big as a horse. And Harry McClary from Donaldson's Dairy. Who else? Blitzer Maloney, all skinny and bony, Muffin McLay like a bundle of hay, Bottomly pots all covered in spots, Hercules Morse as big as a horse, and, going for the bin there, Harry McClary from Donaldson's Dairy. Dachshund. Snitchel von Krumm with a very low tum, Blitzer Maloney all skinny and bony, Muffin McLay like a bundle of hay, Bottomly pots all covered in spots, Hercules Morse as big as a horse, and Harry McClary from Donaldson's Dairy. With tails in the air, they trotted on down, past the shops and the park, to the far end of town. They sniffed at the smells, and they snooped at each door, when suddenly, out of the shadows, they saw Scarface Claw, the toughest Tom in town. He looks a bit like Zeppelin, doesn't he? Said Scarface Claw. Off with a yowl, a wail and a howl, a scatter of paws, and a clatter of claws, went Schnitzel von Krumm with a very low tum, Blitzer Maloney all skinny and bony, Muffin McLay like a bundle of hay, Bottomly pots all covered in spots, Hercules Morse as big as a horse, and Harry McClary like from Donaldson's Dairy. Straight back home and into bed, which is exactly where you'll be going now, Brodie. Hence the name of the show, Brodie's Bedtime. Unfortunately, we won't be having a song this week because Daddy forgot to rehearse. So on that note, I will say sleep well, my little man. And oh, by the way, your mummy sent your daddy a video today of you smiling, and it's the most beautiful, gorgeous smile he's ever seen. So you sleep well, and Daddy will be back next week for another episode of Brodie's Bedtime. Good night, Brodie.